I was thinking about the term alchemy recently about when it comes into like reflection of parenting. And basically what alchemy is like this ancient tradition of believing that there was some process to take something ordinary, like an ordinary material, and turn it into gold, or like to find the magical elixir to longevity of life. Basically taking what is common and finding the uncommon within it. And I like that in terms of parenting, because basically we all go through this replicated process that's happened for eons, that a baby is born, which is something that is unique to our experience, but it's commonplace to the world, otherwise the world wouldn't be going on. And yet it is our job to be able to cultivate the magic within that person, to be able to bring out the amazing things within that person, to be able to truly facilitate growing that person in the gifts and the strengths and the weaknesses that they have, and how that actually ends up ultimately playing out in their life. And when we look at what alchemists did, what they actually did hands-on in order to try and make, natural materials into gold, they weren't doing as much to the material as they were doing to themselves. They were improving their skill set. They were looking at things differently. They were being quiet. They were looking inward. They were trying to listen to what the world around them was trying to show them. They were looking for new tools and new ways in order to be able to make this process happen. And so when we think about that in reflection of parenting, when we think about what that looks like when we are hands-on with our children, so little about what we learn about parenting actually applies to how to cultivate the human that's in front of us. We learn the basic how-tos, how to feed, how to take care of, how to make sure that, they don't harm themselves. All of those kinds of things we do learn a lot about. But when it comes down to the care and nurture of the soul and spirit of the child that was given to you, that is something that we need to look within ourselves, that the tools are within ourselves, that the tools are within our healing, that there's just kind of this idea that everything in our lives leading up to this has either opened the preliminary door to be able to help them cultivate their own strengths and weaknesses, or it's been able to open up a door for us to be able to heal parts of ourselves that we wouldn't have ever seen otherwise if it wasn't for these tiny little mirrors that are reflecting back the negative parts of our own personalities. And so I just really like the idea of thinking of parenting in the same scope and understanding of alchemy, because it takes the pressure off of having to get it right. But instead, it puts a different type of pressure on to be able to really slow down, to gain insight, and to just know that if we are able to just listen and observe and gain knowledge and try new things and be willing to fail, that ultimately we will at least preliminarily crack the code to the gold that's within these children that are gifted to us. And of course, I approach this from a Christian standpoint because I'm a Christian, and I know that a lot of my followers are of different faiths or of no faiths, whether it's the universe or no universe, whatever. There's still a concept that there has to be some kind of order within what we're doing, and that it's so beyond the idea of random chance that we have to be able to see that there is a code somewhere into being able to facilitate these tiny humans to be able to grow and thrive as we release them from our nest. And that starts at a very young age, and it starts with looking within us. It starts with looking within them, and a big thing is looking at their strengths and their weaknesses, not allowing their weaknesses to hold them back, but just being able to cultivate their strengths so that they're able to grow and thrive throughout this world. That we just don't want their weaknesses to hold them back, but we also don't want their weaknesses to become the focus. We want their strengths to remain the focus. We want their strengths to be able to be the thing that they always realize that's what they need to keep growing. Their weaknesses, they just have to be strong enough to not hold them back. They don't have to be strong enough to pivot them into some other dimension. If they're not a math person, they're not a math person. They're probably not here to do math things, but they probably are an art person or a science person or a deep thinker or something else. So, I mean, with my 9 children, I look at them and they're all dramatically different people. They all have dramatically different gifts, and they all have dramatically different strengths and weaknesses. Even within how I see them interact with each other, I can see how some of their strengths actually play to the other one's weaknesses and how they can balance each other out. It's really interesting when you just stop and and take some time to observe what's actually going on instead of staying in the busyness of, making sure they're fed and making sure the bath time's on time and all of those other types of things. And so my challenge is this, to just stop for a week and really observe your children. Observe to see where you can see the cracks of the gold within the ordinary, where you can see things that are kind of showing through that you can see, and you want them to be able to grow so that they can at some point show the world what they're doing. All those things that we know will make them shine when they are released into the world, that's what we're looking for. So just take some time to slow down and take the pressure off and just observe what they're doing and see where you can become the alchemist in your children's life.